Welcome back to DBS, and today we are going to talk a little bit about Otakon, because while it may just be a regional, it is kind of our next premier event. Lots of people may be going, may not be going. It's kind of weird because on one hand, it is the East Coast event and a con, and is our next premier event that will have commentary. On the other end, it is not Gen Con, and Gen Con's next month, and Gen Con's a lot more expensive to go to, so people may be saving up for Gen Con. So it's kind of like a little bit of a mixed bag. We won't know until we know. However, we will talk about what I expect to see based on the past events, and how I think that's just gonna kind of affect your stay in that tournament if you do go. So the thing I do want to hit up though, the normal shoutouts, if you haven't already, give a follow to the official Dragon Ball Super card game Facebook group, as well as the unofficial Dragon Ball Super discussion group. You're going to find all the official announcements and spoilers and places to discuss them all between these two places. Also, you should probably visit the Universe X Discord, because there's like a gajillion things to talk about there between this game, One Piece, Digimon, games like Legends and Dokkan for Dragon Ball, anime in general. I have channels for literally everything. Games that don't include it, like, it's really just there. Just go down the description and join it. Past that, I do want to say that if you haven't already, by the end of this video, you might want to subscribe, because we're doing more and more content here. We've got content for this game. Like I said before, Digimon's coming up. We're going to put a lot of games up on that. And then One Piece will be coming up more and more as we start getting closer to the game actually releasing. At the end of the video, I will have a little section where I shout out the people that have recently subscribed. I'm gonna move that to the end so that it doesn't clog with the beginning of the video. And then last but not least, if you want to support your boy hard, then go over to UniXDB, where I play my Dragon Ball video games, and subscribe there, because once I have that channel monetized too, it's gonna be a lot easier to pump out way more content for both of them with the money I'll be able to get from them, and maybe less time I'll need to spend at a 9 to 5. So let's jump in to the Otakon speculation. So yeah, getting into Otakon, we are going to kind of just talk about some of the results from Philly, what I think that'll mean for DC. And yeah, it's kind of got a cool little bit to do with it. I think first we talk about the elephant in the room, which would be Bulma. I don't think that, like, granted, you shouldn't be sitting here thinking that Bulma's going to be a non-starter. There are going to be people that see Danny Wynn's success and want to piggyback off of that, because Bulma was just an unknown quantity for a lot of people. There are people that were already hip to Bulma but weren't sure if it was going to fly, and now see that it can. So yeah, Bulma is going to be there, and unfortunately the thing I have to say about Bulma is that very specific routes of play beat Bulma. We don't have Secret Enemy Mass Sand anymore, and that hurts because Bulma has a lot of good recursion, so removing the things from the game actually does a lot. So, I mean, maybe you'll be able to get away with certain cards, you know, like an unexpected turn, maybe. There are some things. Warping the cards are much better than just sending them to drop. But at the same time, Bulma, depending on the state of the game, can be susceptible to hand control, if I'm not mistaken. So that might mean certain decks may be able to do a lot of things to it. Now, those decks are kind of far and few in between. Cell drops a whole lot of cards, but you gotta let it get to turn 5, and that could also be very, very dangerous. Cooler does a lot of incremental destruction, and I think that may be a little too slow for Bulma and how fast it accrues cards in hand. So we really kind of have to see. You might have to play around with that. But Bulma is going to be one of those weird decks where if you just aren't equipped to do anything about it, you just aren't, and that might be a tough pill to swallow. However, I don't think Bulma will be at every single table, because Bulma is just not a deck that I think a lot of people will have fun playing, or will rush out to just put together right now when you already have red cards that you could build with GT or U7, things like that. And hey, just want to take a quick break right here to shout out Pro Play Games. They ran Philly, they're running Otakon, they're even running Nats this year. They're the best TO that we currently have. And I don't think that's going to change. They really do put in the work. And in the meantime, they also sell a gajillion cards. So if you want to go and find the best place, in my opinion, to buy sealed singles for both Dragon Ball Super, Digimon, as well as pre-orders for One Piece, I suggest you go in the description, use my link to go access PPG's website, browse their stuff, buy a thing or two. It's going to not only have you supporting the people that are really putting the tournament scene on their backs, but it's also going to help me using my link. So yeah, go do that if you want to support your dude. So the next on the list that I want to talk about in terms of popularity is Gamma. Gamma was a deck that lots of people are already looking at because of its untapped capabilities. And now that it was the most represented deck in Top Cut in Philly, a lot of people are going to be looking at it and kind of just being like, maybe I could try this. And I think that that is going to be something that you're going to want to encounter. Playing against Gamma, you really have to understand. I think Joey on Crossworlds just did a video about countering Gamma, so that's a video you can also go and check out, shoutouts. But at the same time, what you have to understand is that Gamma is one of those decks where its mid game is incredibly strong. Its mid game is actually, its defense step in the mid game is one of the strongest I think the game currently has to offer. Bulma, of course, is probably like top tier, tier 0 in terms of defense. But yeah, Gamma has a mid game that's very, very hard to contend with. However, their early game is where it can be weak. Now, the decks are building themselves to be better in that space defensively, but offensively, I don't know. If you're not playing red or blue, you could be in trouble. Or red or green, you could be in trouble because you can't destroy some of their threats. They can just start really piling things on board on turn 3. But most of the time, their early game is going to be where you can pressure them very hard if your deck allows it. Then the late game, you can kind of pressure them in the late game too. The only difference in the late game is that we have bombs, we have blue bombs, we have turning the tide, we have things that we can use in the late game that really make it feel like we have a strong late game. But Gamma players, their meat and potatoes are in the mid game. So if you are kind of like thinking, how do you play against Gamma? A deck that can pressure early game, survive mid game, and then have clean finishers in game is a deck that can probably contend well with Gamma. But you shouldn't be trying to expend your entire hand trying to close out the mid game, in my opinion, because that is where we are just sitting here comfortably, and you have to play very specifically in order to stop our mid game. Now, with that being said, the floodgate negates really do help. Like your resolve renews, your focus breakthroughs, these things really do help against the deck. However, a good Gamma player will not try to make a Android 14 Topo-esque negate be their only line of defense. So you're gonna have to really, really be careful about that. Let's see. I think the next thing I'm gonna talk about is Trunks Geta. Trunks Geta did make a very, very good showing, and I think it allowed people to see that yellow is not dead. In fact, yellow is very, very strong, just slightly different. Now, when it comes to yellow, it's still playing the same card. So if you studied how to play against Icarus, you should still generally know how to play against Trunks Geta. However, Trunks Geta is also employing some cards that people see kind of on a fringe when it comes to yellow, like Tyrannical Blow, I mean, look, yellow is still yellow. You have to beat it in a game of tempo because yellow will sit there and they'll be drawing all these cards. If you are too passive, you never force them to use their outs, meaning that when you do try to push them, they will have outs on outs on outs. So yellow is a color that you cannot just sit there and not pressure it. You have to pressure yellow, otherwise yellow will just have the arsenal in hand. So yeah, pressure it hard, and eventually you need a clean finisher. You just, like, watching yellow play its games, there's plenty of games online, you need to watch it play because you need to understand the flow of said deck. If you see them turn 1 not play a 1-drop, understand that this is your time to start leaning into them because they first off, their awakening turn could be a little later. They don't have their EXC balls online for when they do awaken, so if you don't see them play a 1-drop on turn 1, just know that they probably drew subpar and you might have a little room to start pressing. In terms of cards that are good against them, your small summon negates are also still very good. Your Let the Battle Begins are monumental because even though they get their 2 draws, you are stopping them from getting some of their best offensive cards on the field, or defensive cards on the field as well, being the Vegeta that can pop things when they're rested, being the being the Trunks that can, do its tapping down thing and blocking with barrier. These cards are strong and they will get the draw from their leader in the EX Evolve, but they won't get the actual card, and that makes things very, very, very rough as they progress. So yeah, I think Trunks Geta is not beatable. I've been really working on that matchup, but you do need to understand how to go against it because the deck will be way more popular, and they have an incredible amount of kill potential when you're at 4 life because they just have the ability to swing with their leader, detach, play the secret rare Gohan and Piccolo, or Piccolo and Gohan, pile on what they need to, and hit you for upwards of 60k, 65k if they can smell the weakness in your hand. And then the secret rare plays, they draw another card, they tap down something you control, they swing, they draw something, or draw another card, they tap down another thing you control, and then if that doesn't get negated either, cool, it's getting the Champa, and it was already at 40k, so it's at 50k double strike, and they put their whole hand on it. So yeah, before it was blow you out with Icarus, and then, you know, Champa and combo your entire end to kill. Now you can kill from 4 life and get both swings easily over 60k. So that's a thing. You gotta be worried about that. Past that, looking at the red decks, I don't think U7 and GT took a very big hit to their self-esteem. Neither deck really performed well at Philly, and a lot of decks are understanding how to play against them better. You are really going to be able to ruin the red decks with Gamma. Dirty Burst will stop their end game, Sensu Bean will stop the beginning game from GT, and Let the Battle Begin will start messing up all sorts of plays from both GT and U7. So yeah, you really can't. Past then, yeah, that's just pretty much that. Like, these decks, GT is a little more difficult to understand because it's newer, but for the most part they feel very similar in terms of their late game potential. And then when you look at cards like, I mean, I guess GT can, it's weird. I want to say GT has a higher ceiling, but I just don't fear GT as much as Gamma player. It just didn't feel as strong. But U7 has been doing the same thing since it came out. No changes. So outside of the introduction of Baby Unison and mixing that with Jiren Unison like copies, you're really not looking at a different deck. I have plenty of videos talking about U7. You should probably look at them, and you can see the games all over the place, but the deck presses you with powerful 1-drops, it has some good counter plays, and then its finishers are very good, but its finishers have to be played in a good spot because it doesn't, red never has done the best things with energy, and if you tap out for a 4-drop, you're probably gonna die the next turn if you don't kill them this turn, and it's very likely you don't kill them this turn. So, yeah, we are looking at a couple of things there. Now when you move over past that, green is in an interesting place. Green is purely, not gimmick, but I mean, you can either run Cell and try to rip your opponent's hand on turn 5, no matter what, for the most part, or you could be playing cooler and have access to early game aggro, incremental hand destruction, and potential like game-breaking momentum plays in the form of your secret rare stealing your opponent's unison with all of its markers on. I think that Cell and Cooler are both essentially high-tier rogues right now. They're not going to be that popular, but do not get caught sleeping because both decks can just ruin your win streak or potentially put you in the loser's bracket. Cooler, I have a deck profile from Cooler from Amani. You can go over to Broken TCG and see a deck profile on Cell. Those will get you pretty primed up for what you need to see. But just make sure that if you can't take the hand destruction, you have some side for it. Make sure that if you don't know how Cell works or how Cooler works, that you watch those videos to better understand. This could save you a easy loss, or, you know, in their case, easy dub, and you can really just move on with your tournament. But those are the ones I think you're gonna see. Now, Rogue, there's gonna be far in between because a lot of things are playable this format. You could face AOD, okay? You could face U7 Gohan. You could face so many decks. You could face SS3 Goku. There's a lot of Rogue you can face, and I don't think I could get into all the Rogue effectively because that's just how Rogue works. They lurk in the shadows. But in terms of meta, I think you're about to be into a Trunks Geta, Gamma, U7/GT, Cooler/Cell. It's not gonna change that much, but the ratios are gonna change. You're gonna see less green and red and more yellow and blue heading into Otakon, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I hope this video kind of gave you a little bit of insight. I just wanted to do a quick little bite-sized tidbit kind of deal. And yeah, that's all I just wanted to say. Thank you guys for joining. I wanted to give the shout out at the end, like I said. Basically, thank you for joining the UniX fam, and that goes out to Andrew Mickelson, Paul Hamrick, Pablo Perez, Pierre Path, and Sonny, I think it's Fock? It's F-OK. Thank you. Thank you guys for joining, and I will see you guys the next time you decide to join Universe X. And if you want to get shouted at the end of the video, just make sure you join and just stay tuned until the end so I can see where your name is and give you the shout out for helping me do what I love doing. Thanks.